In this video, we'll be planting 3 new crops: oats, alfalfa, and soybeans. We'll go from corn stalks from last year's harvest to a knee-high stand. This is the start of my second year farming, and if you're new to the channel, you can catch up by watching last year's season-long video. We're on 50 acres I bought 1 year ago, and the goal is to turn a profit. I share all the details and lessons learned. This past winter was extremely mild and dry, besides for 2 weeks where we got some good snow. Now we'll fast forward to early spring, as it's time to get spring seeding the oats and alfalfa.
So behind me is 6 acres. It's a nice kind of rectangle field, straight edges, and I'm thinking about putting this into alfalfa. I didn't know I was going to do that until like a couple weeks ago, and I could still change my mind at this point, but we got the disc hooked up to the 40-20. We're just kind of figuring out how deep we want to go. The idea with the disc is slice up some of this residue, then I have a chisel plow to try and turn it over, and then let that rain, let it freeze a couple more times. It's currently March 19th. Now this is about 11 acres behind me roughly. So again, same process. We're gonna disc it with the 40-20. We're just pulling it really slow, not even really running it that hard. Trying to slice some of the corn stalks. Then I'll come with the chisel plow.
And to get a better idea of the field layout, this is the 5-acre rectangle field I was talking about we started on first, and then this is the 10-acre field. So it should be pretty nice for hay because we won't have to turn around as much given the shape. And the 30 acres over here we're going to do to soybeans. So this total is just around 50, and we'll have 15 total acres in oats and alfalfa this year.
Today we're going to be seeding in some alfalfa. That's what these bags are for. And then we have oats as well. So the idea is with the oats, we're going to do a light rate. So probably a third of what somebody would normally plant. And we're going to spread the oats, just broadcast it, work it in a little bit with a field finisher, and then come back with a 3-point seeder and come in with and seed the alfalfa. So we chisel plowed this about 2 weeks ago now and got quite a bit of rain on it, and I just want it to dry out so we don't do any extra compaction. And we'll come through with the soil finisher, probably 1 pass before we broadcast, and then 1 more to incorporate the oats. We still got a lot of residue here. That's probably, I don't know, just the main concern. We'll see how it looks after the soil finisher. And that's what it looks like. Super tiny, super small seeds. All right, I got this disengaged. There we can see, it's hard to tell, but then we got it set to about 12. We're going for about 20 pounds to the acre.
Before we seed the oats and alfalfa, we use my brother's tractor and soil finisher to break up and level the ground. My neighbor helped a bunch by broadcasting the oats with his fertilizer spreader and tractor. Also, I'm borrowing their seeder and 40-20, which saved me a ton of time and headache instead of trying to find a drill of some sorts to do this.
And there's all the seeds. So I think that's 7-inch spacing. Again, this is my first time doing it, so the neighbor, Bryce, when he gets back, he can tell me if I'm doing it wrong or right, which is nice. Very nice having people who know what they're doing around here. We got a long ways to go, and the sun isn't very high up. I could probably bump up the speed a little bit.
The hardest part was staying on my line with the corn residue. It made it difficult to see my passes at times. Now the seeder is 10 foot wide and has a cultipacker in the front and the rear. The ground was a bit wet in spots, and you could see the tires were leaving tracks in the field, making it a bit rougher than I would like. Now if we can get a good stand, this will be in hay for 3 to 4 years, so it's important to do the best job we can.
We ran out of seed and I don't know exactly where, so we'll figure it out. It's the next morning. I'm about done with this 10-acre field. The seeder I'm using, we must have the rate too high, and I went through much more alfalfa faster than I should have.
Be nice if all the ground was nice and bare like this.
We finished up the next morning on the 10-acre field, April 6th, so we didn't miss out too much on good growing days, and rain is in the forecast. This is what the field looked like 1 month later. You can see the oats coming up fast and alfalfa taking a bit longer to get going. That's the idea of the oats stacked as a nurse crop this spring, and to help suppress weeds and shelter the alfalfa while it takes much longer to get established. Now I got back from being out of town and started on the 5 acres April 26th.
Then we spread oats, same thing here, spread oats. And then I didn't work those down or press it down with the seeder because I didn't have time that day. And so those oats kind of sat on the surface for probably 2 weeks. And then Grant the other day came through and just lightly came with the cultivator. It's way better planting conditions now, way drier, and a lot more level. We shouldn't be sinking in as much, firmer seed bed, so that'll be good. Hopefully I have my rate set correct and we don't waste a bunch of seed like over there. You can see these are the oats coming up. These oats were spread 20 days ago, and then we let them just sit on the surface, and right before seeding the alfalfa, we came and the day before just lightly with a field cultivator cultivated it to stir it into the ground, and then I came back with the cultipacker seeder. These are starting to take off, and there should be some new ones germinating that we incorporated. The nice part is this looks like a carpet out here after the rain. Leveled all out, any rough spots and stuff like that. And obviously the only worry on this is the amount of residue that's on the ground. That's one bad thing and will prevent some of those seeds from germinating, but it's also nice for these big rains. There's not too much erosion and stuff going on.
Here you can see the field start to pond up in low spots, and a broken field tile doesn't help. Now we just need the sun to come out and the oats and alfalfa will start to take off. The creek crossing is starting to back up here. In big rains, this will fill up all the way and spill into the field, so we still have plenty of room to go. 5 acres pond up in the compacted areas we drive on, and they're shaded by the trees. 2 weeks later, and after some sunny days, the oats and alfalfa start to take off here. This is late May, about 6 weeks after seeding. Some spots are for sure lighter due to heavy residue compared to other spots. The 10 acres is looking a bit rough compared to the 5. It's been interesting watching it grow because the 2 fields were seeded in different conditions 2 weeks apart in a little different method. In my opinion, the wetter conditions and heavy residue on the 10 acres is starting to show compared to the 5. And now this is an up-to-date view of the field. Over the last 60 days, we've gotten 14 inches of rain, which is about an average of a quarter an inch every day for 2 months straight. For example, this is my brother's field 5 miles away with a 5-acre pond in it. Granted, this field has tile issues here, but in all neighboring fields there are ponds and planting has been severely delayed. Looking at the 10 acres, in early season, everything looks worse when looking down from the air, but you can see areas that are wet and drowned out. The biggest mistake I'm finding out that I made is seeding into heavy corn residue is really hurting the alfalfa stand especially. Now this averaged 220 bushels on corn, and in pointed rows in higher yielding spots the residue is much thicker. In comparison, on the 5 acres which had less residue from lower yields, I seeded into much better conditions. The 5 acres you can tell has a much more even and thicker stand of alfalfa. Now granted, this is my first year doing all of this and I didn't make the decisions until spring, but I should have either done tillage in the fall or baled the corn stalks, or I could have just been more patient and waited to seed after soybeans. Now time will tell, and we'll see really how the field turns out here in a month or so. For those with more experience, let me know how you think the stand looks and if I should try a no-till drill into light spots as soon as possible or just leave it, or any other options I have. Here's where earlier you saw me disc and seed some grass for a parking spot. It's starting to come up, but the heavy rains for sure moved some seed and hurt it. But thankfully, even with these heavy rains, we never got crazy floods, like 5 inches in a 10-hour window and the creek go out of its banks and flood the field. So it could easily be a lot worse than it is right now. Now we'll backtrack to this past fall when we tore out a fence line to combine my 30-acre field with Grant's newly acquired 40 acres prior to planting soybeans.
So we're going to knock out this fence line real quick. Half of it doesn't have any trees, super nice, and we'll reuse all the fence posts. And when we're done, my field and Grant's field will be combined. It's leaking right here. So I can run it without the thumb, and it's not going to leak that much. Get a whole new one to run up to here. So all it was is I sent power to I threw the thumb all the way back, and then it burst. It's just an old hose. It's not like I got it caught on anything. It just burst. So it's not a big deal. I was worried it was one of these guys. What's nice, not too far away from here, there's a hydraulic shop that specifically does hydraulic lines and stuff, so seems cheaper than going to other stores. So we're good to go. The one before was kind of all over the place. They spliced it, so this should work. We've got some low power issues in the excavator, so I ran home real quick, grabbed a fuel filter. The fuel tank, I've been battling it this whole time since I bought the excavator. I believe somebody let it sit for a while, not full of diesel, and then rust or algae started to build up in the tank. If I see anything floating, it's too hard to tell, the bucket's so dirty. And I actually got my other pickup stolen about 2 weeks ago. The maroon one you guys probably saw hauling a trailer a couple times. That got stolen, and all my tools that were in it and a bunch of tools that were in the shed that they broke into. Over the past couple weeks I've been able to find some stuff, but I think I'll probably make a video at some point explaining how it all went down, and but we'll see. Time will tell. Just kind of sucks, honestly. I mean, the truck being gone, I don't think I'll ever get it back, but it's probably long gone. But all those tools, those are hard to replace. Like, the little things that takes you a while to think about that we're even taking, so.
This is not the right wrench for the job, but it works.
Grant and I just brought this disc back home. It wasn't too far away. It's a Case 496, 22 feet wide. It folds up. And yeah, we're just gonna use it super light on these corn stalks to handle some of the residue and to slick up some of the dirt work we did over there. So it'll be handy to always have if we have like a washout you want to repair. That way you can grade it out, smooth it out, and then come seed it, stuff like that. We'll see how deep we are. We have it almost on the lowest setting. There's one more hole. Slice the corn stalks is all. Yeah, maybe a little deeper than that. I don't even know if it's scratching the dirt.
And a reminder, all this work is being done last year after corn harvest, and it's late fall in all this footage. Now, we would have no-tilled into the corn stalks if the residue wasn't so thick from the corn head being worn out. All of the rollers on the head are super dull, and some rows are just about shot. So some of these corn stalks are completely intact and still 5 feet long and stringy. Now, a VT probably would have been the best tool for this job, but we went with what we had and used the disc. I ended up doing 2 passes on my 30 acres in hopes to speed up the breakdown. Now fast forward to spring. An early planting window came up when I was out of town, and Grant planted the field with soybeans April 12th.
In. Okay, it's showing I wasn't planting. There's a bean. There's a bean. There's a couple of rows we're not finding any beans. So this is why you always load it with just a few beans when you first start planting. So something wrong with row 10 here. Hopefully you don't. I'll probably just back up over it. It was just a C-plate that wasn't on properly. That's all it was. Our depth might be a little too deep. We're gonna keep moving a little bit, try a couple different areas before we change depth. We're empty. We can now fill with bulk because we got all the bugs sorted out. Let's roll. We are rolling on planting. This is awesome. Being able to farm this farm with like 3/4 mile long rows. I don't think I've ever done 3/4 mile long rows. But my guess row, I don't know why. I can't just let it go. It seems like it's off 1 or 2 inches. I'm trying to dial this thing in, and maybe it's just SF1 or something like that on the globe that it's just always going to be off an inch or 2. Things are going good. I think I'm going to call it. Usually I love planting until like 2 a.m. when the rain's coming, like that's awesome. We've got 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, of 80-degree weather. And it's gonna be beautiful, sunny. I'm just gonna call it quits at 8:30 and just get up tomorrow morning and plant the rest of it. Enjoy the day. Okay, we are rolling on bean planting. I think I figured out my issue. the planter pulls to the left. That planter is not squared. And it's pulling to the left. I've never seen a planter, I don't remember this planter pulling to the left that hard. I think we kind of found our issue, but our issue is why is the planter pulling to the left too? So I gotta double check a couple things, make sure all of our settings on down pressure, row cleaners are all the same on the left side. But this is my check. I've got the row marker out there, and I'm just checking to make sure my mark on the tractor is right down the center of this line. And then once I think it's good to go, I'm just gonna lift up the markers and we're gonna plant with GPS. But I think I figured out this planter. I am pretty aggressive with my row cleaners. I don't know if it's right to be this aggressive. I like it for soybeans because it leaves a nice black strip and it's gonna warm up good on early soybeans. But maybe I'm a bit crazy with how aggressive I am here. Something's wrong here. Let's see what's wrong. Basically, it stopped planting, and look back at the transmission, the wheel's not spinning. And it's free. It's free. That means we probably got a chain broken. I thought we had something worse going on. Really, it's just a shear bolt that lines up right through here, which I'm not sure why we sheared that shear bolt. That's not a good thing. But at least it was a shear bolt and it wasn't like the transmission or something else going wrong. So we just need something to stick in there, and I should probably get the appropriate shear bolt for it and not something else in case there are bigger issues with this planter. Okay, we're off to Deer. It's like 11 o'clock, they close at 1, and I'm gonna get some marker arm shear bolts too, because I used my last one there. I should have measured the length. I got 2 bolts, these are the size I was told, and I was like, no, it's gotta be thinner than that. It's gotta be thinner. But that's what the computer showed, is that it was this dimension. So I got this size, it's just I need it a little longer. We gotta go back. I was right, but I wasn't 100% sure I was right. Got the shear bolt back on. I'm hoping something else major isn't wrong with the drive transmission that it sheared the shear bolt. Here we go, the last pass. Should be good as long as rows 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Don't run out of seed. And perfect, done. Okay, we are done. We were so close on seed. I'm gonna try and go through that planter tomorrow, get all the rest of the seed out, and then get the tractor hooked up to the sprayer so that the sprayer's ready to go Monday morning when the winds died down a lot. We're gonna get spraying this morning here. Now we're gonna head over to my neighbor Mark's place, and he's got a whole tender setup and stuff, and he's the one I actually bought this sprayer from. And perfect.
When the pump's running. Not all at once.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna get this guy just to feel, like I can feel with this broomstick.
Okay, we got everything mixed up. I'm agitating stuff right now, getting it mixing.
Grant just bought this 90-foot sprayer, and it's his first time ever spraying on his own, so he didn't really film anything. Last year, I had all spraying hired out, so doing it ourselves will be cheaper and save some money.
I had to fold her up. I ran short for some reason on product. I mean, this is like 65 acres. We mixed for 70, and I probably got like 5 acres left or 4 acres left or something like that. It was weird. I did have obviously a lot of overlap because this is kind of a weird design farm, a lot of waterways, stuff like that. Okay, we got everything all sprayed off, folding up the booms. I had 5 or 6 acres we were short, sprayed those off, but man, we must have filled this tank a little full because there's a good amount in there. And I was like, what the heck? Was I spraying the last 5 or 6 acres? You have to be on your toes. You have to freaking know everything. You have to see all the booms because you got your trees along the edges. You don't want to spray waterways. And then also you have some hills where the booms could, dip into the hills and stuff. And I caught 2 or 3 booms. The boom actually touched the ground. It's exciting. It's an adrenaline rush when you're spraying. I don't know. Maybe I'm just driving too fast or something. And I had a little screw up on my end. I got the wings all folded in, and then somehow, which I don't know how, so I was folding it up, everything was folding good, but the right side tends to always come lower than the left side, and the left side stays high, the booms stay high for some reason. And I must have got it sitting right on the edge of this support bar, and when I went to set them down, I guess I wasn't paying attention. When I set it down, it like hopped over the support bar, but that's not possible. So I guess I set it down in here and it got caught on the support bar. So currently this boom's caught up here. That cylinder is all the way retracted in. So even if we take the skid steer bucket and try and lift this boom over this support bar where it's supposed to lay, we're just fighting against that cylinder that's all the way retracted.
It's good where it's at.
Okay.
Straight up with the bucket. Can't come over to me. Now you've got clearance. Okay, should be good now. Let's just back up. Okay, you can go down now. Now back up just a hair more. It's all gravy from here, Grant.
Yeah. That boom is back on. We got all this fixed up.
Now here's the soybeans that are just coming out. These were planted 2 weeks ago on April 13th, so pretty early planting, at least in this area. And yeah, they're just coming out. Certain spots where there's not as much residue, or they weren't as deep, they're poking through. So this field will be all soybeans. Planted this into lightly disked corn stalks in the fall. Now here's 1 week later, after even more rain. This is the bottom of Grant's new field that ponded up. Now one big positive to all the rains is you can see the areas where water sits in spots that we can improve in the future, possibly with tile. The waterway on my 30 acres is coming in nicely, especially after last year's tile repair job we did when the main clogged up. It's just under 1 acre, so it'd be cool to make hay off it in the future. Also on Grant's field, he has 5 acres in grass at the bottom, but it sits kind of low and it's flooded out here. Now this is a week later and things are starting to dry out. I got some weed patches of field horsetail. In my understanding, it's a pretty tough weed to kill due to its leaf surface area being so small. And now this is what the beans look like today, early June. The waterway is really thick after some rains, and there will be some bare drowned out spots in the field for sure. And this is what the shape of the field looks like now after pulling the fence line. It totals 68 acres. The north part is my 30 acres in the South Grants, 5 being in grass. So this year I got 15 acres in alfalfa/oats and 30 in soybeans. We'll hope for a good weather and no hail. Thanks for watching the video.